All right, well, a couple of you people were foolish enough to say, yeah, I'd like to see what goes on with that edit and how you make shit pretty. So, here we are. No introduction needed. We'll get through it as quickly as possible. Open up Lightroom, and this is the image we're going to check out today. Obviously, the last one that I posted from Noble Falls, that's the edited version. This is the before version. So the very first thing I will do is I will go and change the color profile to Adobe Standard. I prefer to work with Standard as opposed to their color. And then I will always drag highlights all the way down, pull the shadows all the way up, and then I will just automatically max out the whites and the blacks. You can do that if you hold down Shift and just double click on the white and black wording. It will just do it automatically for you. It normally does a pretty good job. You can see already that it has dragged a lot more contrast out of the image, which is what we want. Next thing I will do is go down into the tone curve. I'll play around with the sliders here. I don't worry about dragging around the histogram. I reckon the sliders do a pretty good job most of the time. I'd normally just drag them around, have a play around with them. I've already done this edit though, so I know what I put them at. So straight away, just with a few sliders, you can drag a shitload more contrast out of the image. When you drag contrast out of an image, you naturally drag saturation out of it as well. So you can see we get a little bit of a bump in all the colors as well. It's always nice to drag saturation out of an image naturally as opposed to having to push it with sliders. From there, we'll go to the HSL color panel. What I'll normally do here is I'll just grab the sliders in the luminance and just bump them up and down. And it just gives you a good visual reference of what the other two are going to affect in the image basically. So grab the yellow, you can see, oh yeah, that's where all my yellows are in the image. So if I play with the saturation or the hue of the yellows, it's going to affect it there. I'll often spend a fair bit of time playing around with sliders in this, just get the color balance within the image how I want it. Once again, I've already done this edit though, and that's literally just trying to drag some more color out of this sky up here, out of the sunrise, because there was only a little bit there. A little bit more is nice. You can see it's the oranges thrown a little bit more into the rocks as well, but it's mainly just to get some color out of the sky, and that's all I've done there with that one. Split toning, I don't always use split toning. Sometimes it works really well and other times it's kind of shit. Once again, you'd normally drag around and pick a color for your highlights, all that yarn. I already know where I ended up with this image. I had, and the balance one, dragged it down towards the shadows just a little bit, just so it's putting more emphasis of the split toning into the shadows as opposed to the highlights. That just kind of helps shape the tone of the image a little bit. Put some blues into the shadows, make it feel a little bit colder. It was fucking cold there. And just a little bit more warmth into the highlights, thanks to the sunset. I said sunrise before, didn't I? I meant sunset. It's been a long day. Anyway, that's how we've gone about that. Detail, pretty standardized stuff, just a bit of sharpening. Effects, yeah, I normally put a bit of a vignette on the images. Pretty much how I vignette all of my images in a lazy ass way. And the other thing you can play around with is a calibration panel. This one, you gotta be careful with it. It can actually destroy the image if you push things too far, but it can be really handy just to, once again, just to tweak the overall color palette of the image and just shape it to give you the feel that you're after, sort of thing. I don't always use it, but I did use it on this image. We shifted the hue of the greens. What did we shift it to? Like minus 50-ish. And then the blues, I pushed the hue of the blues up a bit to like 30. So we turn that one on and off. So it's a subtle difference, but it just makes a bit of a difference in the water, and also just through the greens up in the trees and off into the horizon and that. So just a nice subtle little difference, just adds a little bit to it, I feel. So that was it with all of the panel stuff. Probably should have added that actually, is that after I've gone through all that process, I will then come back to the main panel and play around with things a little bit to shape the overall image a bit more. But going about it like this, dragging your highlights down, your shadows all the way up, maxing your whites and your blacks, you're just dragging all the natural contrast out of the image basically. And then you can come back to it later on and just tweak things and try to get the correct feel. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Get the correct feel out of the image that you're going for basically. And also you'll find that once you've gone and tweaked everything else, your whites and your blacks, they're going to be out of whack again. So you need to just double check them. And once again, you can just hold shift and double click white and black, and it will sort that out for you. I always try to make sure I'm not clipping the hell out of the whites and blacks. The blacks you can clip a little bit and it's all good. The whites, you don't want to clip whites, because if you push your blacks way too far, if you really drag that down, you can see all of that there, it's completely crushed blacks. There's no information there, it's just black. It might create like some sort of dark mood or whatever that you're going for. Problem is though, that when you go to print that, they look like absolute shit. So all those pretty, really dark and super moody images you see on Instagram and they crush the absolute shit out of the blacks, yeah, they look really pretty. Go to print them and they look like absolute fucking ass, and that's why. Same as peaked out highlights. If you peak the absolute shit out of your whites, then it just you lose all the detail there, and it just prints as straight white, which, I mean, in most cases it won't actually print something there. So you've got this piece of white paper with nothing in it because there's no detail there. It creates ugly sections in your images. So if you are planning to print your images, you do need to make sure that you've got your whites and your blacks under control. It's very important. Anyway, one other thing I did do with this image is, see this bit here, all through here. I'm not really sure what the hell happened. I do remember shifting the camera across a little bit, and I don't think I readjusted the polarizer, which is a bit of a rookie mistake, because this sort of polarized glare right here, which is rather detracting, it shouldn't be there. And that's the only thing I can think of that was causing it. But if you look in the final edited version from before, it doesn't stand out quite as bad. Because what I've done is I've grabbed a radial filter, a really big radial filter there, and we've tweaked it a little bit. The main thing I've done is I've dragged the blacks up a bit, dragged a dehaze to make haze effectively. And then if I hit overlay, you'll be able to see the affected area. I did then get the brush and I've erased it from the face of the rocks through here, because what I'm attempting to do basically is to create just a little bit of a hint of a soft haze from the direction that the sun was setting. Works in some images to just soften off a sunset or a sunrise and make all the colors blend in nice and pretty and neatly, and just gives this nice soft, not quite a glamour glow feel, but yeah, kind of in that direction. But by making it a little bit hazy up through here, and of course it does spread down into the water down here, I feel it just kind of, it helps to blend in this, what is kind of a glary, hazy section in the water here. Like, it's not getting rid of it completely. Like, if I turn the radial filter off, you end up with that. Turn it back on, and see, it just softens it, everything over there, and it just helps to blend it in a little bit. It's still not perfect, and it irritates the absolute shit out of me, and it's completely my fault. But that is just what I've done there quickly to realistically to try to hide my fuck up. So that is how I've gone about trying to rectify that in this image. You will see there's a few other radial filters there as well. I've put a larger one here, and I've just bumped up the saturation a little bit. Once again, just trying to drag a little bit more color out of that, what was a pretty boring ass sunset. And I've put one big wide one through the guts here, and just bumped the exposure up just a little bit, just to try to draw the eye into the center of the image to what we've taken a photo of, which is a fucking waterfall. All pretty standardized landscape editing techniques, really. And that is pretty much it. That's how we got to this image. Wait, stop, hold on. Sorry guys, Future John here. Past John is a fucking moron and forgot one extremely important step, And it's something that I do to every single waterfall photo I edit pretty much. I'm actually pretty disgusted with myself that I overlooked this before while we're going over everything. But anyway, go back into it again, and this is the thing that I missed. I told you this whole thing was probably going to be a fucking train wreck, and it has been. But anyway, I will go and grab the brush tool, and I will paint quite loosely over the entire water. I'll do it with these settings here, just like flow at 75 and density at 75. And yeah, just liberally paint across wherever there's water. You don't have to try to stay right in the lines or anything like that. Actually, if I put the overlay on, that is the result of what I will do. I'll just paint over. You can, I mean, if you zoom in and look, I haven't really bothered about being super on point with all of it. I've deliberately avoided this glary section because I didn't want to drag more glare out of it basically and drag the eye towards it. I wanted to keep that sort of, I'd like to forget about the fuck up that I made there if I could. But anyway, that's what I've done there. I'll paint over the whole thing, get rid of the overlay, and I'll bump the fuck out of the exposure to start with, and it'll look like this, which looks absolutely fucking terrible, I know. But then what we'll do is this magic little panel down, and this is in your gradient and your radial tools as well. They've all got it. But I'll go down here to the range mask. I will pick luminance, and then I'll drag this one all the way up. And you can see what it's doing. Basically, what I'm telling it to do is, no, ignore all the dark parts. We don't want to apply this brush stroke to those dark parts. We only want to do it to the light colored parts, which is the water. This is why you don't have to be super stressed about keeping it off the rocks and stuff like that, because the rocks are always heaps darker than the water, and you just range mask it out anyway. 95% of the time, dragging this all the way up to around 80 to 85 will do the job absolutely perfectly. I don't bother around with the smoothness or anything like that. What did I say, 80 or 85? Yeah, 80, 85. And that will normally result in you only affecting the brighter parts of the water. And then, yeah, I'll normally drag that right up like that. And then the rest of it becomes very image dependent. I'll also drag all the saturation out of it. That's a personal preference one for me. It is how I like my images to look, with water looking nice and clean, and or more than anything, like the flow lines and the streak lines that you get through the water from the long exposure. I do like it to look all nice and clean and pretty. And I mean, anybody that follows me has probably seen me bitch before about go to shoot waterfalls just after there's been rain, the water's all ugly and river watery looking, and I don't like it at all. It shits me to tears. I prefer nice, clean looking water. It just presents better in my opinion. It's kind of, I prefer that look for, I don't know, my style, I suppose. I don't really fucking know. But I'll desaturate to try to achieve that as well. I'll play around with the texture and clarity. Sometimes I don't need any. Sometimes I'll boost the absolute shit out of one or both of them, as I've done here. It is literally all about just trying to get the look in the water that you want and trying to fine tune how you want that to look, because it's a waterfall. That is what the image is all about. It's about the freaking water flowing over the rocks and pretty shapes and leading lines and all that boring technical bullshit. So it's literally just a way to shape the look of the water and get it to look how you want it to look. And everybody's got their own opinions on that one. But anyway, that's how I go about tweaking the look of the water in my images. So that's that one. Sorry about the interruption, guys. Throw you back to past John. Future John's getting the fuck out of here. Gonna go have coffee. Maybe something to eat. Nah, coffee always wins. If it's like coffee or food, coffee always wins. I'm gonna get a coffee anyway. Throw you back to John. Ta-da. It's not that hard. It's actually really fucking simple. If you've watched all the way through this train wreck, I hope you've enjoyed it, guys. Thanks very much. I would actually like to start trying to do this more often, just give people a glimpse into how I edit things and how things get done, and effectively just try to provide some more than just being another dickhead on Instagram. It's like, hey, look at my fucking photo. Isn't it pretty? Yeah, give me likes, whatever. I would like to actually try to give something back for people's attention and interest in my work, basically. So this might be the first and the fucking last one I do. It might be the first of many more to come. We'll see how it goes. If you have enjoyed it, guys, you know the yarn. Likes and shares and saves and all that usual social media bullshit. It's much appreciated. And till next time.